global conversation hosted by Alex Resvan Viennet.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Retail Podcast. Today I am very fortunate because Alistair, who you'll meet in a minute, is traditionally flying around the world, all the US where he's based, meeting retailers and crafting, in my opinion, the future of retail. And when I met Alistair and Hero in 2016, I think watching the journey of greatness that they have been on and going from strength to strength, it's just been a pure pleasure. So Alistair's kindly given me some time in his days. Alistair, hello.
Hey, Ali.
Hey, I can see a beautiful backdrop. Where are you?
Oh, I'm in New York today.
New York. Okay, fantastic. And the weather is cloudy or sunny?
Actually, it's interspersed, a little bit of clouds, but as a pasty Englishman, I need that, or I get sunburnt in the summer here.
Yeah, and I presume you have just gone through one of the most really tough, horrendous times in terms of from a COVID perspective, specifically in New York. Did that have? I mean, how has that period been for you? How has that whole lockdown period been?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been really interesting. We've all been reading about and listening to a bunch of people's different experiences in the press and across the media, and I kind of break it out into two areas. There's like how it's been personally, and there have definitely been challenges. I think we've all found that spending this much time with ourselves is an interesting and challenging thing. There have been great parts, which I've got to spend loads more time with my family than I've been able to spend in recent years, and having young kids. That's been brilliant and wholesome, and something that I wouldn't take back. And then from a work perspective, and I'll stick with me as an individual to start with, what an interesting time to be a business leader, right? It's actually none of the normal rules apply. There is no book. Management school doesn't count. You've literally had to invent it from scratch and build it from the ground up.
Yeah.
And so I have, put it this way, enjoyed the challenge. And you've got to find your own enjoyment, but it was definitely a challenge regardless. And then from a business perspective, we're in a very fortunate position that Hero has really been able to actually be a bit of a saving grace for our partners and a good chunk of the industry, and helping to keep them trading and keep businesses not just afloat, growing. Yeah. And so we've actually managed to put ourselves through years of hard work and when no one was watching, but we've managed to take what was a challenging time for the world and put ourselves in the spotlight. And so actually it's been very rewarding as well, Ali.
Fantastic. So I think one thing that I've taken for granted is, like, I know who and what Hero does. The rest of the world obviously know what Hero does and what they're all about. So if you could just maybe take us through, how did you join Hero actually? Where did that come about? Obviously I know Adam, and it'll be great to maybe get Adam being the founder, a brief mention. We won't spend too much on Adam, but in terms of your journey into Hero, and then I'd love your opinion in terms of the growth of Hero, because what I've seen is what I've watched is the growth from a retail perspective, right? From retailers meeting you. I'd love to hear it from your perspective, from the CEO's perspective. So if you could just take us through that'd be great.
Yeah. So no, you mentioned the start of Hero, Ali, and like many good things, great opportunities come from strong partnerships. And Adam and I have been mates since we were kids. We started working together when we were in our late teens, and frankly have built and run a bunch of different businesses. And actually it's true with a lot of the management team at Hero. A lot of them are old colleagues and old teammates of ours. And we've really built the business based on a bunch of expertise, which we're lucky to have in our black books already. But specifically, Adam and I have known each other for a long, long time. And we came together not far off 5 years ago now, and basically came up with the idea for what Hero is today.
Right.
I never make any bones about it. Adam is by far the smartest of the operation. I just help to make things happen. But yeah, look, what it is, we set out on a journey coming on 5 years ago now to connect up the best possible experience between customers that were shopping a brand online, connect them to experts and salespeople and advisors that worked for that brand, predominantly on the shop floor. But the interesting thing has been more recently, of course, there's been no shop floor to work on. The stores have been closed, and a lot of employees in retail have been furloughed, but actually not for partners running Hero. So brands that already had Hero deployed have been able to keep their colleagues from the shop floor working and selling to customers that have been buying from their website at quite an increased rate. So the nutshell is Hero's connecting up customers while they're shopping digitally with all the experts and salespeople that can help them make the right purchase for them. And we've really built out not just a business, but helped to grow the sector around virtual shopping, live shopping, and conversational commerce. And as I said, about a 5-year stint so far.
How have you found culturally people sort of switching from physical? I find that obviously in Europe we have a way that we consume digitally, and in the US. But how have you guys crossed the pond and led with that sort of digital first experience?
Yeah, what an interesting question. There is a great quote which I'll butcher and then not be able to attribute to the author, but it's something along the lines of, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they hate you, then you win.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
We've definitely been through a not dissimilar cycle over the years with that, which is, I remember in the early days turning up and talking to some potential partners about the idea of connecting up the best parts of their business, all of the growth that they're seeing in e-commerce, with all of the rich experience that they have in store. Yeah. And frankly, there are a bunch of people that just didn't reply to the email to start with, and that's fine, like when you're starting any business. And then, you do get in, you get your first few breaks and introductions, and you show them your initial product, and you get a lot of nods and smiles and thanks, we'll talk to you next year or never.
Yeah.
And then you break through and you actually get your first few wins, and you launch pilots and programs, and you get your first set of results. And of course, the people that didn't jump on the train in the early days dislike the fact that you have had some successes. And we're at a point now where we've surpassed all that. And really, I'm delighted to say that I'm watching not just for our business, but for all the businesses in the space. This is an investment that is good for the industry, and it's good for the partners, for retail brands to be spending money making the connective tissue between what their customers want and what their people are able to deliver. It's just the right thing for the future. And so I guess those are some of the challenges, but all of them have been converted into opportunities over the time.
What's the features in terms of, obviously, if we just sort of take a bit of a deeper dive, and the reason I think it's really clear, the reason why I love this whole idea or this view of connecting in real time users with stores, right? So it just works on so many levels. But what are some of the key elements or features that you found that retailers have loved the most? Because you do have quite a diverse set of retailers using this. Yeah,
definitely, Ali. And you mentioned the types of retailers that they use it. It really is everything from beauty brands like Deciem or Cosbar or Credo in the US, all the way through to homeware and furniture, the likes of Jonathan Adler, for example, or the likes of Our House, again, in the US. And of course, the luxury guys, which is where everybody goes as kind of the use case first off. So we've been fortunate to work with LVMH and Richemont and a number of other brands in luxury from day one. And then through to places where you wouldn't necessarily expect, like telcos, like supermarkets, actually even auction houses. It's really anywhere where the customer experience during the sales process really matters. So stack it high, sell it cheap, not the right place for that. It's wherever you want to build ongoing relationships, have like a in-depth conversation with the customer. And so when you talk about feature sets, Ali, two main areas that we've seen play out as really powerful, in particular during lockdown. Number one is video. So the power of being able to see the actual product like there in front of you. And you think about the disparity in the US when some states were closed, other states were open. So being able to through to a state with stores that did have colleagues in, that did have products in front of them, great. And number two is there were some partners that were able to safely put a small number of associates in their stores, but keep the front door to customers closed and sell virtually from the store. So customers are basically live streaming into the store environment. There are a sales associate or two able to take photos and videos and connect in real time and show the actual product. And it was things you take like furniture and homeware, for example. It was things like people saying, is the table, is it solid? That's not something you can really communicate well in a product description. The sales associate would sit down and actually knock on the wood and show you the side of the table and the underside and how it was put together. And would see $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 purchases going through an e-commerce, which was previously unheard of. And then the other one, which is quite important, is you think about all those thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of employees across America that were pretty unceremoniously sent home during furlough. There was very little warning. Stores just closed. And of course, that meant that payroll all but stopped for the majority of them. But using Hero, we were able to connect up the retailer's e-commerce product feed so that the associate could use our technology to basically search the entire directory of online products, connect with customers that are on the website, and use the directory to make recommendations in real time. So even though they were sat in their bedroom or home office or living room or whatever, they were able to still sell every product that was still available in the warehouse. And of course, they had absolutely nothing in front of them, but they had all the training to do so. So those have been really powerful. We've been really pleased to see those features and functions playing out for us the past few months.
Yeah. Do you find, in terms of the whole sort of shopping as entertainment, I'm sure you sort of observe, like I have, the Singles Day and how live streaming in Asia is sort of, and you see these pictures of thousands of associates behind cameras. I mean, how far away are we from that in terms of every retailer? I know you would love every retailer to be live shopping and streaming, but you do look at what's happening on Singles Day, and you do look at the live stream. But again, it's been So you tell me, how do you see that?
Yeah, 100%. So let's just talk about that in real terms, right? I'm playing back experiences very quickly in my head, thinking about the best way to give examples of this. So it's already happening, and no customer has waited for the retailer, and I'll explain to you what I mean. And in my personal network, out of my friends and family, over the past 3 months during lockdown, friends have got engaged and got married. I have had questions on my opinion around whether my close buddy from school should buy this engagement ring or that engagement ring. The retailer has not been part of that conversation at all, but he's sending me pictures and videos all over WhatsApp, right? All over WhatsApp. Like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? He's literally going to the website of various brands making engagement rings, screenshotting the thing, sending me the email excerpts for who's charging what and how best to negotiate the right price. And is it more important around cut or clarity or carrots? And he's sending it to me and a bunch of the other guys that were all on the bachelor party with him, that will all be on the bachelor party with him. Saying, guys, what do we think? What do we think the right ring is for all of those of you that have been married already? Another one, a good buddy of mine had a kid and moved house during lockdown, and sending me pictures of his empty living room, saying, what do I do? Should the TV go here? What do you reckon to an L-shaped couch? My wife's talking about putting the dining table in, and we've all been giving our opinions and helping out, and taking photos of our spaces, all that kind of stuff. And it happens again and again and again. I'm probably showing my age. All my buddies are growing up, getting married, moving house. If I take it back down to the siblings, younger brother, younger sister in their 20s. My sister's sending me pictures of outfits she wants to wear to the joint birthday party with Dylan have when I'm back in the UK and we're together. It's that kind of thing. It's all of the sharing's already happening. But to your point up front, I see few, if any, Western brands making that collaboration and sharing really easy. And it's just come next. The consumer behavior is already there.
Do you look at so in terms of the evolution, so I love what you're saying in terms of framing it in the sense that we are already digitally connecting. We are already in the live stream. It just happens that stream or that connection or conversation is with friends, it's with families, it's with groups. And now through the whole lockdown period, it's via some form of video conferencing platform, whether it's Teams or something else. So it's interesting that you're saying that psychologically we've culturally shifted to that, right?
Yeah.
So, and what's now missing is the retailers, or sort of in a major way, tapping into those sort of conversation styles. Do you have a view on, just out of interest, do you have a view on bots then, in terms of, you know, how a lot of people, about 2 years ago, I think every time I used to talk about hero and conversational shopping, they'd be like, oh, that's the bot thing. And I'd be like, no, that's not the conversational shopping. Where would you feel sort of, maybe a better way to call it, automation? Where do you see automation or AI fit in this journey? And do you use that?
Yeah, what an interesting thing. So definitely was a hot topic in the industry. I think that a lot of the initial press coverage and perhaps like first manifestations of AI, bots, artificial intelligence, I think it was too simplistic and too rudimentary. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. I think what we've probably proven as a society over the past half a decade is that having a computer sell to us or trying to buy from a bot is not an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
There's no understanding or subtlety or humor or sarcasm. It's literally what you see is what you get, and if this, then that scenario.
Yeah.
Does that mean that that data and AI should not play a role? Absolutely not. It should be a lot more, in my opinion, it should be a lot more back office than front office. So I don't see the future. I think bots have become less and less relevant to an interaction point with the customer around sales. Can it help triage customer service? Absolutely. Everybody phoning up the airlines to cancel their summer travel plans? For sure, a bot can help with that, because it's coin operated. You give an input, you get an output, it's done. But should it be proactively selling to customers? Probably not. Where you could see a bot serving a lot more purpose is in informing the colleague in the business on what action they should take next with the customer. Let's stick with the travel example. Yeah. So you phone up British Airways, Ali, and you cancel your summer flights that you've got because of COVID. Yeah. What the bot should do is pull your travel itinerary, have a look at your previous spend with British Airways, and then get one of their sales reps to phone you back to rebook you on a more suitable travel plan when the time's right. Yeah. And inform on the offers and the incentives and the recommendations they should make, so they don't even have to think. They can just be effective relationship managers and salespeople with the customers. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I see less and less to the point where we don't really even discuss it at all in the boardroom anymore with our partners about should it be a bot interacting with the customer or not. What it comes down to is how can you maximize the number and quality of relationships between humans, between colleagues in the retail brand, customers wanting to interact with those colleagues. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you then put Hero in that framework in terms of conversations, obviously Livestream was like the first thing that you guys did 5 years ago. And in my mind, again, you led the industry in that sense. As far as I'm caveat that, as far as I'm aware, in the West, maybe if people were doing that, I didn't see it in any significant way. And I remember seeing Adam talk at Shop Talk. I've seen him talk at so many different events when he was the only guy on the stage talking about live commerce and shopping in the live stream. How do you see that maturing? How do you see that growing up, if you like, or do you? I mean, obviously, I know that you said that it still hasn't gone wide in terms of you've got people, early adopters, right? They're coming on, they're understanding the value of it, and they're doing it better. How do you see that growth?
So it's interesting. I see it's like people used to ask, when is the year of mobile? And you play it back and say, well, when was the year to be, right? It's like you don't know it until it's already past you. Yeah. So I think the adoption curve on this is already way ahead of where a lot of industry expectations are. Yeah. And I think I know for sure from a Hero perspective, you've already got hundreds of brands using technology just like this. I think next year you'll see thousands, and the year after you'll be into tens through hundreds of thousands, and it'll be ubiquitous. Yeah. And that kind of aggressive growth curve that I think that we'll see. But outside of live streaming, it's quite interesting. Like, or the way we view live streaming, it's not an end result, and that's not how the industry should see it. It's not like, we should get every retail brand to live stream, and then that's a silver bullet, and all problems will be solved. It should actually be used just as a catalyst for more interaction, more relationship building. I'll explain what I mean. Yeah. Being able to have a live stream with a colleague in a location that can show you the physical product will give you higher confidence, particularly in times like COVID. I'm not going to be shopping for fun right now. I don't want to go around 20 stores without a purpose to kill an hour. Quite the opposite. I definitely have consumer needs. There are things that I want to and have to buy. And when I go to that store, it has to be in stock and I want them to be ready. And to be frank, if I have questions, I want them to be armed with the right answers to get me in and out quickly and efficiently, right? And so do I want to see the product in advance? Absolutely. Do I want to have a connection with a named individual that I would go on and meet in the store and continue that dialogue with? 100%. And I tell you where I think live streaming has turned really powerful. We announced a partnership with Google recently, Google Business Messaging, where basically you can from a search listing tap to message that business. So you type in the name of a retailer, say Rag and Bone, just as a hypothetical example. It will bring up, there'll always be a listing on the right showing you the nearest location and some customer reviews and opening times, that kind of thing. You can, from a message button, tap and begin to interact with that store, and they can start sending you that rich media, the video, the picture, and so on, all to drive your intention to actually then turn up in that moment and make purchase. So it's just like building a bit more of a.
So is that an intent to drive footfall to the retailer through?
Yeah, absolutely. They're using video and imagery and connection to the store to help increase the conversion between those that search and those that turn up through the shop door.
Got you. And for those who are in the UK and then don't know Rag and Bone, because I don't think they've got a showroom in the UK, right?
No, they're like premium apparel. They would probably be in a not dissimilar category to a John Varvatos and All Saints. Again, all depends on personal taste, but I think they make great stuff.
No, I do as well. I had the great pleasure of meeting them at NRF when they came to the Microsoft stand. Okay, in terms of one of the things that's really surprised me, given the length of period that this has been, is e-commerce, and how e-commerce, where you would have thought, early 2000s, people were building their e-commerce, getting their channels, and getting everything up and running. But how many retailers were caught short with having effective e-commerce platforms? Now, I don't know if that's just a anecdotal thing in terms of some of the conversations I've had have made me think, oh my God, I thought this thing was in a better shape than it is, as you are seeing. So how do you see in specifically e-commerce and in retail, is e-commerce, have people got it locked down? Is it something that people have said, our e-commerce platform is done now, we can look at other things? I'm just curious in your perspective.
Yeah, I think the sentiments move from in the boardroom at large business, like national, international brand level, them thinking we've got e-commerce locked down. It's between 10 and 20% of our gross revenues. That's great. It grows a couple of percent year on year, which is good compared to declining footfall. But it's, why do we need to change it? We'll just continue to make the same investments each year and try and kind of manage for efficiency. And then, of course, COVID happened, and it turned into the only revenue stream in the business. And it went from 10 to 20% of your revenue to, as I say, virtually 100% of revenues. And you start to look at the early data coming back from China, where they've gone through their lockdown and reopening process, and e-commerce has kind of re-plateaued, but not at the 20% level. It's like 40+% level of total revenues being billed by the brand. So it kind of doubled overnight. And what that's done is caused the shake-up to say, okay, this is now not just a division of what we do, it's probably the major component of what we're going to be doing over the next 3 to 5 years. And the shake-up is actually happening now. Saying, okay, how do we reinvest in this channel? What do we need to plan for, and for the unforeseen? So how do we deal with things like, all of a sudden, shipping has become more important than ever before. Stock availability from warehouse, right? Ship from stores suddenly has taken a back seat, and your warehouse management, inventory management, suddenly really important. Product descriptions and on-site marketing, really important.
Just quickly on sorry to interrupt you, but just in terms of this, again, it's quite interesting you were saying, because what I've noticed again here in the UK, some retailers using the stores as the warehouse during this period where they're fulfilling. Was it the same sort of experience there, or people's? Because I know the setup is different, and culturally, the way that retail happens here is so different from the way that it happens there. But did you see? I just feel that obviously you guys will lend to that ship from store, the store becoming mini warehouses.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing order online pickup in store.
Yeah,
they're becoming very, very, very popular, much more than ever before. The whole curbside pickup piece really important.
Yeah.
In fact, there have been a number of our brand partners. Credo Beauty, based out of San Francisco, have got a really nice way of doing things. They've already got the customers' order pre-bagged with a name label on. They can literally hand it to you even when you can't come into the store. They can hand it to you kind of over a counter. If you bought online, if you bought online in advance. You know what? Actually, credit to the industry, which was they had the component parts to adapt for the times that we're in now. They just hadn't necessarily strung them all together. But I've been really impressed with what I've seen, how a lot of the brands have changed and adapted and done as much as they can in a very short time period, and without inflated budgets. Even to the point, there have been a few of the apparel guys running shopping parties over Zoom, that kind of house party. I like ingenuity, and it just lends itself well to this whole trend that we've been a part of from the beginning. So for me, it's less about provider and it's more about intention. And actually, I do give credit to the industry for that.
How do you see, just sort of changing gears a second, in terms of looking at from an economical perspective and the retail industry, specifically in the US, how do you, I mean, I know you don't have that crystal ball tucked behind you. Are you going to look into it and tell me your forecast for next year? But it's been really interesting observing this sort of lockdown, not lockdown, and then a second, it feels like some of the states have gone through second waves. But how do you see the next year for retailers? Do you think it's more of the same? It's a V-shaped recovery. People will just go back to being normal. Do you have any views on that?
Yeah. So when people talk about V-shaped recovery, I think a lot of people are referring to the stock market. And if you look at how the Nasdaq's performed over the past 90 days, then V-shaped recovery is exactly what's happened. And in fact, I think it's in ruder health now than it was in the high times last year. So fiscally and financially, the US has been through a V-shaped recovery, and the question is whether it can sustain it if there's a second wave with the election coming up in November. And of course, that will all trickle down to retail and consumer spending and all that good stuff. But the V-shaped recovery is there, and it actually gives me cause for optimism for retail, and I'll tell you why. I believe that there is huge pent-up, we're already seeing it, there is pent-up demand, not for retail or for shopping, but for experience. Everybody's been locked in their apartments in New York for the past 4 months, give take. And everybody wants to do something. We've just opened up restaurants in the city here in Manhattan, not for indoor dining, but for outdoor dining. And everybody's put their table and chairs on the curb, on the street, and some of them in the parking lot that runs from the nearest side of the sidewalk. If you told me that 3 months or 4 months ago, I would have declined the booking and never gone to that restaurant again. Now people are going to these kind of Michelin star places and having a great time because there's no alternative. By the way, it's going to be no different for retail. Those that can be creative, those that can actually be cause and experience led, I think are in a huge upside with the customer. And my final point actually would be fiscally. People say, "Oh, Al, you sound really positive, but what about all of the challenge? We've had all these stores we've had to close, all these employees we've had to furlough." For the independent businesses that I've been talking to with owner operators that are real hustlers, it's been quite interesting. Yes, they've furloughed staff, but of course it's payroll that they haven't had to pay. Yes, they've had to close their stores, but by the way, they've gone straight back and renegotiated with their landlords. And the interesting thing that's come from e-commerce is that some of these owner operators have figured out they can be more profitable by selling digitally and not having all of the fixed overhead of an external business, a physical location. And they're going to drive that part of their business forward now for the next 12, 18 months. So I actually next year, there's a ton of upside which brands, if they run towards it, can capitalize on. And of course, but that said, with me tempering it by saying, of course, it depends whether there's a second wave. Of course, it depends on how the US behaves around the election. But I actually see 2021 as being a big potential upside from a profitability perspective, from brands that are heritage legacy with a load of dated cost.
No, I mean that's a great perspective, and I actually can see a lot of the elements of that and how it could play true. But obviously, you've got these two big events: the election and potentially second wave coming on. We're coming towards the end of the podcast, so I want to be respectful to your time, and as we go through, in terms of looking at Hero and looking at the future of Hero, where would you like Hero to go from? Obviously, you've gone from strength to get to here. There is that horizontal growth. Is there anything you can? Because I appreciate that some of this might also be your secret sauce, the stuff that you're working on in your laboratories. That this is the stuff that you potentially may not be able to share. But is there, where do you see the future for Hero?
Yeah, Ali, great question. And for us, we're really focused on being the ultimate sales technology for anybody looking to sell, whether that's in bricks and mortar or online or both.
Got you.
And so, our future is on helping to empower and support those businesses that are going through change, those that are closing stores, those that have had furlough staff, and those that are starting to build their brand today. Because, by the way, there are many, many of them. Just go and pull a report from someone like Shopify, and you'll see they're going through double-digit growth. And where are all these merchants coming from? And it's how do we enable all of these business owners and brands with large aspirations, whether it is bricks and mortar or online only, and combine the best of both. And so for us, it's like doubling down on our strategy that we've always had around connecting up shoppers with the most knowledgeable people about that brand and product and business.
Yeah.
And I think probably starting to remove the onerous requirement for there to always be a bricks and mortar presence, because sometimes there will and sometimes there won't, but technology can more and more step in to facilitate that experience going forward. And that's our big focus.
So I know one of the things that Hero has been great at is data capture, and I can only imagine the amount of data that you have. How do you see the use of that data, not in the sense of from a privacy or security perspective, but in terms of, I remember once in terms of maybe enabling new markets, or how do you see the growth of your data, and what sort of plans do you have in that area?
Great question, Ali. And if we're to put a lens on of just being forward-looking and proactive, and we put to one side, of course, all the real challenges and spiky issues around data that are being discussed always, and especially now.
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting, the type of data that our industry, the e-com and online transaction space, get access to and have knowledge of, and being able to play it back to the retailers and the brands and the owner-operators and show them where their opportunities are to drive further growth, and perhaps bring together a couple of tangential industries like banking and finance to the retailer, and be able to help them underwrite more considered, less risky small business loans based on the increased sales that the tech businesses know they can help that retailer bring. I just see it as a big opportunity and for everybody to benefit. Now, it's a little bit of an arm's reach right now. It's not here yet, but I've been interested to watch the likes of Affirm and Klarna and Afterpay, that whole ilk, and what they can do for customers. And then starting to look at what Amazon are also doing in terms of their small business loans program. Shopify also announcing a similar thing. And I'm wondering who else could contribute in that area. Very interesting.
So you see your data basically unlocking new, I'm putting words in your mouth, but unlocking new markets in that sense.
Yeah, why not?
And enabling smaller retailers to potentially get finance to come on board, to expand and grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. See it as a future.
That's wonderful, and a great note to finish on. Alistair, I thank you once again. I appreciate that you given the situation, given the crazy world that we're living in, to cut out this time to have a chat has been brilliant. I look forward to the next time we meet. Hopefully, maybe next year at NRF, if there is an NRF. But we'll only be optimistic.
I'd love that. Thanks, Al.
The Retail Podcast, a global conversation hosted by Alex Resvan, the